Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the realm of Hobb, the blood of Hobb. I'm Hobb bounding in my pirate shirt. We're all Hobb here today. Um,
All the time.
yes, and today, before we get going, I am going to give some spoiler context before I have my guests introduce themselves, because some people care about spoilers, some people don't care about spoilers. Today, we are going to be talking about all 16 books in the Realm of the Elderlings series by Robin Hobb, plus the prequel novella, The Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince. We are not, I don't foresee us getting into like, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. So it's not like we're going to tell you a full recap of every single thing that happens in each one of these books. Really, though, to have a meaningful ranking conversation, we are going to have to talk about some specifics of the books. So if you are not interested in that, this is not the stream for you. But if you are down for some passionate, politicking between people trying to get things ranked in certain places, if you love Hobb, if you hate Hobb, if you just want to hear people talk about Hobb, this is a place for you. So, with that, I'll let all of my wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Book Goddess, and we'll go like the clock.
Yes, I am the BookTube Goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. And by the way, I am not trans. I am a drag queen. Underneath all this is an old Asian man. So I know there's been a lot of, I don't want to get into politics, but people seem to be confused. There's a difference between trans and drag queens, but whatever.
Yes. I'm here in Tennessee, so.
Oh dear.
So really? You're broadcasting behind enemy lines right now.
Maybe we'll get blocked because I'm here. I don't know. But I am a big fan of Robin Hobb. Spoiler or not spoiler, but I haven't read the prequel, but that's fine. I do, however, have a signed copy of a Robin Hobb's book to make all of you jealous if you want to see her signature. So
it's legible, unlike most author signatures.
I am Evie. My channel is I'm knocking over stuff. Sorry. My channel is She Was Only Evie. I don't like Robin Hobb at all. I've never read a single work by her. No, in all seriousness, I first read Assassin's Apprentice in October 2021 and powered through 13 of the 16 books all last year, and then finished up with Assassin's Fate in January. So I am very fresh with finishing up the series, and I've already finished my reread of Assassin's Apprentice. So I'm already getting into the rereads.
That's the way. Because as you can see, I'm Derry from Derry's Read It Before, and I have been reading it pretty much non-stop since 2001. So I've read these books far more than is sane, and you could say I'm more than a little biased about Robin Hobb in general being the best thing since, well, sliced bread and the Gutenberg press. So, yeah.
Well, so whereas me and Leanne, I cannot remember anyone's names. Derry is always there in the comments to give us a quick assist on like, who was the guy with the beard? And
I was going to say, Mara's and my discussions are pretty spoiler free because we can never actually tell you who we're talking about, where they are. We're like, the guy and the place, in the book we just read.
The one who did the thing.
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn then, right? Okay, cool. I'm Jimmy from the Fantasy Network. I do a bunch of book reviews and bookish content, bookish podcast, all that good stuff that everyone here also does. And I love Realm of the Elderlings. I think Hobb is one of my favorite writers still, even after all the hundreds of books that I've read since Realm of the Elderlings. And it remains very, very special to me in a very personal experience that I think led to a lot of personal growth. And I'm excited to battle it out with the rest of you about where these books should be ranked. It'll be fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. And I'm loving the smooth stylings. I feel like you've got the best mic quality on BookTube I've heard in a while. So,
well, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah.
It wasn't wasted money.
Thank you, guys.
I'm Leanna from Leanna's Library. I was the road trip buddy for Mara through most of Realm of the Elderlings, basically everything after book 1. I think we read together.
No, we read the first one together too. That was what caused the pandemic, remember?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It's our fault. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, I am a booktuber, and I'm known for hating everything. So I'll just have it be known that the one thing I apparently don't hate is Realm of the Elderlings. So that certainly should be in its favor.
Yes, you guys can't see it, but I'm wearing the Burrick earrings that Leona gave me.
Let's go.
Yeah,
I'm very jealous.
Jimmy, I'll get you Burrick earrings for next Christmas.
Yeah, I might have to get my ears pierced. This is
there's also a Burrick necklace that Etsy recommended to me the other day. So
I am Googling this right
This
now.
is why I don't have Etsy on my favorite bar.
I legitimately uninstalled the app from my phone because I get bored and start browsing, and I had to stop.
Well, and when they send you those coupons, you're like, well, now I have to. Like,
What's the deal?
Yeah,
Got to take advantage of it.
I would almost
In this economy?
Yeah,
I save money by buying it more than I would if I didn't buy anything at all.
exactly. Logic.
I want it, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I get all of my wigs off of Etsy. So
Awesome.
Awesome.
Hey,
It's a magical place.
I am sometimes amazed by things that are on Etsy that it wouldn't have occurred to me to look for on Etsy.
Yeah, I just bought a bunch of fabric off Etsy. Who knew? Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen because we're gonna do a little tier ranking and I've customized this to have the correct tiers. So normally you just have like the letters, whatever. That's not gonna work in this case because as you can see, the bottom tier is better than most fantasy books ever written.
Yeah.
So I may be showing. Oh no, is this the one? Where's the one with all the right? Ooh, okay. Hold please. You guys chat real quick because I just realized this is not the version with all of the books in it, which we're going to need. So
Okay, over or under how many times we get titles confused because they all revolve around the same 5 words?
infinity.
I'm here. So
I don't know how to bet, so I don't know what over under means. But
Well, you either take the over or under, and let's say I say 5. If you take the over, you're going to say it's over 5. And then you
gotcha,
get under.
um,
I know because it's always the opposite of whatever I pick. My DraftKings account is a mess. It's
I was
awful.
going to say you probably best not to develop a gambling habit then, Jimmy.
Yeah, and you're just broke like me. Not
But this
cash
is
money.
why I don't have Etsy. You see, that's what's preventing me from going broke.
I found that I was able to, like, before I would read a series, I would confuse the titles, and then after I'd read that series, then I would get the titles easy to remember, except for the last one, the Fitz and the Fool. I still can't get those titles straight. I have
It's
no idea
usually
which one
the
is which.
series I see spoiled the most in like communities that have spoiler tags, you know,
Yeah.
because people are like, "Oh, I thought AF was,
it was this
book
one."
2." Yeah, and then they end up reading the ending of the series and are like, "No."
What? Yeah.
as opposed to I like to think that I have the title straight, but remembering what happened
In
in
which book?
each trilogy, like some things that happened in Assassin's Quest, and I'm like, I could have swore that happened in Assassin's Fate. Like, yeah, it all kind of melds together in my brain.
Well, it's easy for me. I always forget what I'm reading. I'm like on the Kindle. I'm reading a book, and I'm like, "Oh, what's this book called?" It goes out of my mind. I actually
I'll ask my dad what he's reading while he's reading it, and he can't tell me.
That's me. That's me. I
Sorry.
actually had to go onto a Robin Hobb wiki just to remind myself because I started reading Farseer. I think all 3 books were published, but it's like in the 90s.
Yeah.
So I've always kept up with her, but one's memory gets a little bit fuzzy. But I'm all caught up. I've read the little synopses and have had the moments of, oh yeah, that happened. So
I remember, or I should say, I don't remember what I did last week. So it's a miracle that I even remember what these books even are. So.
Okay, I think I'm just missing one. Sorry, I can't find the final version, so I'm just quickly adding them here. But to this point, the names are also similar. I'm like, God, I hope I'm not missing one here. Okay. Okay, I think I've got them all now. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
How dare you? Not be prepared.
Well, I didn't wear
I'm
my bee
having-
sweater, but I have bees on my mug, so I hope you'll forgive me for not wearing.
Yay!
it.
Oh,
I have a
yeah.
bee tattoo.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so jealous, Libby.
So
Okay.
Some
This
pretty-
is making me feel like when I'm at work and at the last minute my boss is like, "Hey, we need to add this to the deck." And I'm like, "Oh god. Okay, just a second everyone."
Sure.
Tap dance, tap dance. Okay, sorry about that. So, I think we've got all the books now. And if we don't, then I'll find it and pop it in here. But tier ranking, the worst that it can be is better than most fantasy books ever. I
Yes.
mean, I'm probably showing my bias, but
Well, I don't think you'll find anyone disagreeing with that.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
not on
might.
this stream.
I might just a little bit.
oh my
Hey.
god.
I know. I'm the worst.
Okay,
You're breaking
well,
my heart.
when we get
Okay.
there, we can talk about which ones you have in mind.
or we can just Jimmy from the stream. That's also
It's a viable option.
quick question. Are we going like in order of the books? Or-
I'm just gonna grab them from here. But
okay, cool.
so second up is Screaming, Crying, Throwing Up.
I think we're going in alphabetical order. No, we're not going.
Originally, it was alphabetical. I tried to recreate that, but then gave up when I realized that.
Because we had all the assassins
Let's
together
start
there in the
with
beginning.
Yeah. All Hail Queen Robin, Your Fave Could Never is the second highest, and then the highest is I Will Never Emotionally Recover From This. Insert Tiger King meme
Yep.
here.
Love to
What
see
is the implication of the screaming, crying, throwing up?
Just emotion.
hooting and a hollering. You know, it's like
Yeah.
Okay.
An
Afterwards,
outburst.
Throw it.
Yeah.
Can-
An outburst of joy.
There should be an all of the above option.
Yeah. So appropriately enough, I think alphabetically, but also chronologically, the first book is Assassin's Apprentice.
It is.
Are we
Fitting.
able to zoom in at all? It's very tiny.
I'm trying to.
Or full screen.
Well,
that's pretty good.
is this okay?
Yeah,
Does
that's
this
pretty
work?
good. Yeah.
Assassin's Apprentice. I'll move. Here's what I'll do. I'll make them a little bigger while we're talking about them.
Good plan.
Thoughts on Assassin's Apprentice? Because I think controversially, I don't like my least favorite series in the whole realm of the Elderlings is the first one.
How dare.
No, it's not that hot a take. It's usually right at the bottom with the Rainwell Chronicles. So
Are you serious? I
Yeah.
can't be a part of this fandom.
See, Leanna, I knew you would come to hate this series. I just took you some time.
Even when I love something, I don't agree with everyone else.
Just always have to be difficult.
Yeah,
here's the
she's
thing.
not like other girls.
encountered a lot of people over 20 years. So it's nice to have met people who invest a bit more energy in what they're reading and pay more attention. So I have found that booktube in general tends to skew a little differently to everyone else I've ever talked to about these books.
Because we're the elites who have the right opinions. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Clearly.
So I will go ahead and vote for I Will Never Emotionally Recover From This because it took me until Fool's Assassin to be able to find a book that took Assassin's Apprentice place in regards to like my personal love for it, individual books. Plus, I was still traumatized from Nosy until the very end. So
See, that's why I think Screaming, Crying, and Throwing Up, because it's like just the experience of a traumatic childhood is that book. So it's just constant emotional trauma.
That's kind of where I'm thinking.
Yeah, and that's where I would put it. It's
For me,
For an
because this was
individual book,
the
it's
first
kind of-
one, right?
Yeah.
I remember reading it and saying, "Oh, this is a better than most fantasy books." This is like finding the decent author. It does have a big place in my heart because I always like the setup when you first get into a world and you're first introduced to the characters and everything.
Mhm.
So I have a soft spot for first books in series. But I will be okay with Screaming, Crying, Throwing Up, but I'm actually more towards the better than most fantasy books.
I hope someone clips that out of context. I'm okay with Screaming, Crying, and Throwing Up.
Jimmy, what say you?
I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like it was like the hand rubbing moment for me where it was like, oh, I found something excellent. Like, this is awesome. And like just felt different. So I actually hold this book in pretty high regard. I would probably put it in the second tier of All Hell Queen Hobb, Your Fave Could Never, because to me, it was like an immediate like signifier that like, okay, you have my full attention, Robin Hobb. And I think it's a great book. I really do enjoy it. And I saw somebody in chat said unpopular opinion AA isn't slow, and I actually agree. I never, it's hard because maybe slower compared to some things, but I was enthralled with it the whole time. So I mean, I'm cool with we put it in screaming, crying, and throwing up, but I also wouldn't mind it being in yellow tier.
So I think I'm hearing most votes for screaming, crying, throwing up. So that's probably where we'll put it. But I think it's very interesting that we've had a vote for every tier. Like this, I think speaks to this is already a very interesting perspective.
Okay, so do you think that's going to happen with every book, that someone will like say for every single tier that book belongs in it?
Well, we'll find out. If we end up with everything in screaming, crying, throwing up, we're gonna have to just.
Oh no, I mean that like for every book that you'll have an argument made for every single tier that there is. Like all books, someone will argue for each.
Could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
Again, just further reiterates all of the above. So.
Well, we're gonna stick it here for now.
You didn't tell us what you feel about it, Tamara.
Well, I would probably put it somewhere between red and teal. Like, to me, this is not, like, if I'm thinking about the whole of the series, it's not one that I feel super passionately about. And I know so many people stall out in the first book, like they don't click with it. So, so I'm happy for it to be in screaming, crying, throwing up.
Cool.
If we do this right, nobody will leave here happy. So,
Democracy.
So all the way to the end.
Okay, green.
Assassin's Fate.
That's it.
Yeah,
better than most
books build up.
Books.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Green.
Yeah, I hardly ever cry when I read a book. I mean, maybe I'll tear up or something. This one had me, So
It's a red.
Green for me, definitely.
You're out of your mind, Leanna. It's not red. That's so silly.
It's still better than most fantasy
But
books.
red.
I said what I said.
I would say green. I think the last 200 pages of my book are stained from tears. Easily the most emotional I've ever been reading a book ever. Like easily, except for Royal Assassin. So for me,
Royal
it's green,
Assassin.
for sure.
So I would put it in yellow because I share some of Lena's quibbles, though I'm not nearly as unreasonable as she is about them.
Excuse me?
But I could live with. It sounds like we're clearly outvoted here, Leanna. This is clearly gonna have to go in green, and I'm not mad about it because it is a beautiful. Oh my god! Like the very end is just.
I mean, the task of finishing out a 16-book series is insane. Like,
and answering all of the questions.
Yeah.
But still opening a door because we still have B in a place where we could see more from her. And just like, I don't know, for me, I think I described it as existential wistfulness of just like, we've seen Fitz for his whole life, like, and seeing it come to an end, but not come to an end. And
That's what makes it so perfect.
And it even like called all the way back to Night Eyes. We're back with the wolf and seeing them all. I mean, it was just, I also like that this is, since it's the last one that Robin Hobb wrote, it was like later in her life. She was no longer in her 40s when she started. She was like in her 60s. So there was sort of a wistful, more mellow type of storytelling or character development that you might not see when you have these YA, characters in their teens or 20s or whatever. It felt much more mature to me emotionally.
Yeah, and the mature characters feel like they've lived, like they gave a sense of I've genuinely lived a life, and I'm looking back, feeling good, feeling not, whatever. But it just was real. I loved it.
Here's a question. It doesn't have to be broken down into like a super side subject here, but I'm just curious, would anyone be okay with her continuing the series now? Like if she said, hey, I'm writing the next book. See,
I'll definitely read it. I'll definitely read it, but I feel like it's a good spot to end.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think Fitz's story is, at least as Fitz individually, is over.
Yeah.
But that
you don't want a book that's all about disembodied consciousnesses just
I know.
cohabitating.
I would not be opposed if the wolf, if like
It's,
the
oh,
stone
it could
wolf
be amazing.
showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wolf Father is a spirit ghost, or as a force ghost who comes back and
But in the, like the stone carving or whatever, like I wouldn't be opposed to that in character appearing.
Yeah.
But I think that like for me, reading the whole series, I always felt so satisfied with each individual sub-series that she was telling a contained satisfying story in those trilogies, or quartet in the case of Rainwild Chronicles. So I would not be angry if she wrote more. So I just love her writing style anyway. So I'm just like, give me all of your works, please.
Yeah. And the door is open for a discrete story about B that flows out from Realm of the Elderlings and becomes B's story where we've had Fitz's.
Yeah.
I think that could totally work.
And then you'd kind of expect at least a cameo from
Oh
Fitz.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see. I'm kind of more with Jimmy and BookTube Goddess because it's like I kind of like where it's left off. But like I'm gonna read it, and I think I almost would enjoy like a next gen kind of story where B is one of the POVs, and maybe we have like Malta and Rain's kid, or I don't know. Like I could see a different kind of next.
We could populate a really good series.
I guess I would say that I kind of trust Hobb to know whether or not there is a story to tell thereafter. So like if she feels that there is, then I'm willing to go with her and say, okay, then I think there is. But I myself don't necessarily see that there's a need for one. But if she feels called to tell one, then I'll go along.
Yeah.
Unlike some people that try to expand series. Lee Bardugo. Sorry.
Well, I mean, like, I doubted Joe Abercrombie. It's that time. It's been 22 minutes. So
take a shot, whoever's watching.
But when he was like announcing the new series, the newest trilogy, and I was like, I mean, I will read it, but I was like, are we just like going back to First Law because like it's popular and may as well tell some more First Law? I was like, I'm sure it'll be good, but I don't know if this is necessary. And then I read it and I was like, I'm so sorry. That was the best one yet.
I think another like something that I would be more interested in from her would be if she jumped forward like 200 years or something. Ooh. So that we could see like where things are in the world, and like Fitz has become a part of the deep lure of the world at that point.
Did we break the cycle that we set out to break?
Yeah, like I think that I would be more interested in that potentially.
Especially if B was like taking the role of the fool now and is the mentor to someone else. That could be interesting.
And B has a cell phone. I don't know. Like as soon as you said next gen, I was just imagining like B on Snapchat.
B as Gen Z.
Just like the most lowbrow YA.
It's like Degrassi Next Generation.
She's TikTok famous.
I was gonna say, Jimmy, you're already out of the not with the times. It's TikTok now, not Snapchat.
Yes, Fitz will be a TikTok dance that B popularizes. It'll be incredible.
Hopefully it's not banned in the realm of the Elderlings. Okay. Last of the assassin books, at least with that is the first word. Assassin's Quest.
That is the first word, not that it's not any of the words.
Yeah. This one, just to remind everyone, is the finale of the Farseer trilogy.
Yeah. And I love this one because it gets better every time I reread it. So while a lot of people don't love this one, and I will be okay with it being further down the ranking, I know how much richness there is in this one, and I would put that in yellow.
I would agree with that. I'm most excited to reread Assassin's Quest, knowing the full context.
I think Assassin's Fate makes this a better book in a lot of ways. I'm going to put in Screaming, Crying, Throwing Up behind Assassin's Apprentice. It's still my least favorite of that trilogy, but I've revised my opinion on this book quite a bit since I finished the series. Before, it probably would have been in red, but I think the teal is strong.
Yeah, I'll go with Jimmy on that one. I'm more towards the red, but
Yeah, me too.
maybe I need to reread it because it's been so long. But yeah, like I said, the whole trilogy got me started in Hobb, but I didn't feel she was like the next Tolkien. That's probably a stupid thing to say, but the next big fantasy writer until maybe Tawny Man. Because the live ships is when I was like, oh, the world building. And then Tawny Man really got me. But anyway, so teal is okay for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely more towards red, but I will allow teal.
I'm gonna say red for now. I could see that whenever, because like inevitably I'm gonna have to reread this now that I've gotten to the end, and I'm like, oh god, now I want to go back and see all the Easter eggs. But as things stand today, this is my least favorite in the series, so I would put this as red.
And that's why I say green, because I've read it so much. On that first read, I totally get why people would put that down in the red, because it just gains so much later.
So I think we're tied because me and Leanna said red. Then we've got 2 teals and 2 yellows. Is anybody willing to change their vote?
I'm happy for it to be
all
teal.
evens out to teal, right?
Yeah.
Like,
or it averages to teal, so maybe that's
everything's going to end up in teal.
I could put this one in red, honestly, because I remember being a little deflated with the ending. So
well, and it's we can argue the case, but if a book is only good on reread, certainly then on some objective level, it has to be less good if it requires a reread or requires the later books to like contextualize. You know what I mean?
I don't know if
it's on its own. It's not necessarily.
Yeah, that's why I was good for it going
I feel
lower.
like there's a sturdy pedantic argument, but yeah, we'll put it in red. It's fine.
I mean, I heard we persuaded someone, so I just jumped.
Influence.
We've gotten one.
Let's put this on the record. I agree with Leanna. So.
Oh, wow.
Major L.
Something to agree on. Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing people understand the reread factor. I'm excited. At some point, I want to try to structure my year so I could do a full reread in 1 year. And I feel like, yeah, that is going to be a great experience.
You've been training for that marathon.
I have slowly but surely. I'm building up my Hobb muscles. Okay, so now we're into contentious territory because we're hitting a couple of Rainwild Chronicles. To remind folks, this is the finale of that series.
Yeah,
I think it's better than most fantasy books ever.
Same.
well,
There are a couple of scenes that I'm like, holy crap. But yeah.
I literally wrote down my rankings of them so that I could go, okay. After really thinking about it, I was like, where would I put it? And I put this one as one of the stronger Rainwild's books. And so I've got it sort of in the bottom third. So I would put that in teal because there's a lot of stuff happens in that book.
I'll just tell you right now, I'm putting all of Rainwild in red, so y'all just figure it out because
Well,
they're all in red.
I'm gonna save my arguments for what I think people think is the best book in the series to really make I'm not gonna fight you until we get, because we are not leaving with at least one of them not in yellow. Like, I will not stand for it.
So here's a question. Am I supposed to be rating this off of my straight up opinion blind to this chart, or am I supposed to look at where things are placed now and decide? You know what I'm saying?
Like relative to the other rankings?
Yes.
Where it stacks?
Like, what am I supposed to do?
Also,
it should be relative to the other books.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well,
Oh, okay. Then it's
but our choices are being impacted by other people. So I would say react to each individual book and then we argue it out.
okay. Well, So I would have put this definitely behind Assassin's Quest, but it would have been in teal behind Assassin's Apprentice as well. So like towards the bottom end of that. But if I do a relative, then I guess it would go in dead last for me, I would say.
Whew, okay.
Yeah, I
So
would
she's
have to.
blaming you all. If y'all hadn't put Assassin's Quest in red, he would have permitted this to go into teal.
Well,
It's your fault.
I'm not gonna fight you yet because
Are you going to put in both?
I'm okay with it.
battling the line.
I'm just I guess my next okay.
It'd be
I'm
funny.
waiting. I'm waiting to make my argument.
Okay.
But I hear the clear consensus. I'm not gonna fight you. We can put it there. Okay. Now I am gonna fight you because I think that this is arguably the best in that series.
Is this
I-
book 3?
It's yellow.
Book 3.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's the best in the series.
And I would put it in green, but I'll settle for yellow.
I mean,
I would go yellow.
I already had like grown to love Malta in Liveship, but the scene of her giving birth and just
Yes.
murdering the crap, holy
Murdering the
crap, that was an amazing scene.
And what's his
Yeah.
face? Seldrin? Her
Cedric?
brother.
Cedric or
Well,
Selden?
Selden.
Yeah.
Selden.
All the stuff with him, and then Cedric is having a glow up, and this series is so much better than people think it is. Okay, it's
It
about
really
women's
is.
reproductive freedom, and the implications of their choice, and it's also about disability and overcoming disability. And this series
Yes.
is underrated, and people who think it's just YA angst are not appreciating the import
Hallelujah. Go
of
Mara.
the implications of these choices that these women are having to make about who their sexual
Yes.
partners are going to be.
Because they're being pressured by everybody around them to conform, and this is what we expect of you, and you don't have a say. And go
Yeah.
Mara. Yeah.
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 Okay, see, I got Derry. I think I've got Evie convinced to at least go yellow. Have I rallied enough of a majority here?
Oh no, I already freely give yellow. So
To me, it's just
I'll
that,
be
like,
okay
I
with
can't-
yellow, but I have
can't
to say that it's been so long since I've read them. I'm having trouble distinguishing between 2 and 3. But
Yeah.
your argument certainly has swayed me. With,
I just
putting
can't
it in,
countenance putting this
yellow.
above Assassin's Apprentice because I definitely like Assassin's Apprentice better.
I have them in the same little group of about 2 or 3 as Assassin's Apprentice.
I'll settle for it being at the bottom whenever we put more things in yellow.
Okay.
Like I'll make
Sounds
that a
good.
future concession. I know it's not popular, and I won't fight you on putting the rest of them in red, but give me one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That can be the one.
Okay. I'm just gonna I'm gonna be a dictator and unilaterally decide this is going in here. But I expect that
it's
this
your
will move
channel,
down.
so,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. As we move along, I'm prepared to move it down the rank, and I won't fight you on the other Rain Wilds. Though I personally like my personal favorite might be the second one, but we'll get there. Okay. So moving swiftly onwards, Fool's Assassin. This
Green.
is
green. Sorry, green.
yeah. This is book 1 of Fitz and the Fool.
I have that. That's my personal number 5. So green, yellow, it's sort of in that space for me because I
That's
just
my
love
favorite.
the beginning of that book. I just
That's
loved
my
it.
favorite in Fitz and the Fool.
Yeah.
I mean, B. So I got
Actually,
a tattoo
yes.
permanently on my body.
Yeah. That is
Because
that
of
is
me.
where we meant to be.
So
I'd go green. I
Yeah.
love this book. I think it's so good. Like I'd like to read it without I could just pick this up today and read it again. The vibes are immaculate.
I'm okay with green. I like Assassin's Fate better, but I certainly also loved Fool's.
I definitely like
Assassin.
Fool's Assassin best.
You're right.
That's
These
a good
titles are
question.
getting me confused.
Yeah,
I'm
which
not
Told ya.
looking at the chart.
I think I'm hearing clear consensus on green, which I agree with. This is one of
Yeah.
my favorites. I would put this before Assassin's Fate, but I don't know.
They're close enough for me that I don't mind because I just loved coming back to Fitz in that book and just seeing where his life was and what was happening and just that really slow sort of, I don't know, this is where we are, this is what's going on. And it
Mhm.
seems like nothing's happening, but there's so much emotional stuff going on, and yeah.
Well, how
And
did
And again, it was a more mature,
Yeah.
emotionally mature person and feelings.
Yeah, and you're seeing Fitz. You're not only coming back to Fitz, but you're seeing Fitz from other perspectives. And on
And
top
it's
of
the
that,
wholest he has been. To
yeah,
that point.
and on top of that, you know, I will die on this hill. Molly gets the
Most improved.
Molly. Yeah, Molly, amazing.
Yeah, she does get.
In Fool's Assassin.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Obviously, like, you know, there's the B stuff, and that kind of takes like precedence over everything. But other than people complaining that there's not much of a plot to the book, the biggest complaint I always see is that Patience falls off screen. And how do you all feel about that? Because I remember being like, because she's my favorite side character, I was like, oh, nuh-uh. But like the more I sat with
I
it,
will never forgive Robin Hobb for that, but I understand why.
it hit harder.
Taken
maybe.
away from
It might
losing
have hit
Molly.
harder off screen because I was like, wait, what?
I was so angry. I was so angry that
But
she
you get
did
caught
that.
up in life, and you know you have someone who's very close to you, but like not in your every single day routine. And then one day you're going to get a phone call, and that's what it felt like to me. Which sometimes is like the bigger gut punch than someone that you spent so much time with every day, and you see it happening that they're going to leave you. You know, there's something about that out of the blue phone call, and you're like, I should have talked to him more. And it's, I don't know. There's something about that has like a levity of reality to me that like really upsets me.
Well,
like,
the fact that your
way.
last conversation you didn't know was your last conversation.
Yeah. I would have been okay with it if Burek, the Burek stuff hadn't happened. I think in Fool's Fate, because that was also kind of off screen, and that kind of bothered me. I remember defending it, I think, in my review, but then Patience also fell off screen. I was like, ugh.
Well, also Chade dies off screen, right?
Well, yes,
He
but if we
does,
kind of get
but
that
they're in
last
his
moment,
final moments.
we get that like last ESP moment, which results in the best
skill.
3-word sentence ever written, which is
Yeah.
Chade Boy wept.
Chade wept.
Chade Boy.
I remember when you read that, and you messaged in Discord, and I was like, "Oh, Jimmy's a mess. That's Jimmy. He's out. He's gone."
Dude, Fitz and Chade's relationship, it is it's everything to me. It is so it's so sticky and very realistic.
Oh, that could be a whole other tier ranking of like the best characters of Hobb, because
that'd be fun.
Tier ranking Fitz's relationships in the Elderlings.
Well, because like I'm sitting here like, who is my favorite? I'm like, well, maybe it's Kettrican, and I'm like, no, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I could pick.
He
It would
was
be
on the
too hard.
day.
The answer is Night Eyes. I don't understand how anyone else is saying anything
that's a
other than
given.
Night Eyes.
We've got Night Eyes and Small Ferret. They're both in their own little tier, and then we have to rank the humans.
Hey,
Dragons.
Relpda. I mean, we can talk about Relpda, but Relpda's great. I love Relpda.
And Paragon. Yeah.
And Paragon.
Also Motley.
Motley. What a good good bird.
So many.
Yeah.
But okay, back to the task at hand. How do we?
Sorry.
No. It was a great discussion in trying to decide where to put this, because I like I said, I probably would put it before Assassin's Fate, but I know some people think Assassin's Fate is the best book in the series, so like I don't know.
I think either or is fine with me. Like
I wouldn't be. My personal thing would be Assassin's Fate and then Fool's Assassin, very closely by Fool's Assassin, but a very slim margin, so I wouldn't be opposed to.
Maybe.
Well, I have Fool's Assassin in green and Assassin's Fate in red, so
Jesus.
That's
yeah. So maybe in deference to Leanna losing the battle over Assassin's Fate's placement, we can give her it going behind Fool's Assassin.
Here's your consolation prize, Leanna.
Yeah.
But I do have to ask, what is it about Assassin's Fate that has you have it so low?
Well, not to be like, go watch our video, but like Mara and I talked about it for quite a long time in our live, because like it's just a lot to do with like the ending and how it was handled and how it was constructed, and a lot about like the implications of the ending that none of it sat well with me.
Actually, no, I do remember that, but still. And again, this is just me reacting to it being at the bottom of a list that still states it's better than everything else.
That's the thing we all have to remember is even if you lose and something gets in red, the title of that tier is better than most fantasy ever written.
I mean, if the title of the red tier was Burn It With Fire, I hope you know I would not say that Assassin's Fate belongs in red.
Good clarification there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll round out Fitz and the Fool with Fool's Quest.
Now, this might be controversial for everybody to hear from me, but I want to put that one in red.
I want to put it in
Wow.
red as well.
Nah, y'all are crazy.
Whoa!
Y'all
I
are
say
crazy.
yellow.
The dinner scene in the song, it's every
The
God.
song kills like that. Oh god,
Bro.
yeah, that killed me.
I say yellow for that.
I was gonna say yellow, but
I like yellow too.
Wow.
Jimmy, what do you say?
Yeah, yellow, if not
Okay.
green. I mean, that moment where Fitz is looking out and realizing who he has been to so many different people is such a human, realistic thing that at some point in your life you realize that like people don't have the entire context of who you are. You know, maybe no one does. And that to me, that was a very moving and a very powerful scene. It also felt like a redemption for Starling. That's a character that gets absolutely dumpstered on by the fandom. You know, for whether it's just or not. You know,
I was gonna
up
say,
to
I
me.
mean, for good
Totally.
reason.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily a Starling stan or anything here, but I'm just saying like it gives that character a little bit of a shine up too. And to me, I don't know. I actually love Fool's Quest. Big fan of it. And for me, it'd be green, but yellow's acceptable.
So
I do love it as like a.
Sorry. I was going to say outside of chapter 10, where that happens, that moment of recognition, which I will admit had me ugly crying with joy, the rest of the book doesn't do anything. And
So-
it's my least anticipated reread every time. I'm like, oh, got to get through this one to get to the best one.
Yeah, I think for me, it's I had the frustration with Fool's Quest, that the same frustration that Fitz had of not being able to like go after B. You can say that's intentional, but knowing as a reader that B is alive and Fitz is just putzing around, you know, I'm just like, go get your daughter, for God's sakes. So, I mean, bottom of yellow, maybe I would concede to that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I just do. I love that scene because it reminds me of like Mr. Holland's Opus. It's like that kind of like, here's what you thought, or like the It's a Wonderful Life at the end where he realizes what he's been to all these people. It's just like so emotional and beautiful. And I think there is stuff happening in that book. You know.
Fitz and the Fool is my favorite trilogy, so I wouldn't mind seeing them all in green. But it's the question. The middle book is probably my least. I have the least emotional attachment to, I guess.
I certainly liked it better than Fate, so.
Leanna just has some salt and she's just, rubbing it in there whenever she can.
Yeah, does that mean she should go in green just after?
It stings me every time I look at this chart and see Assassin's Fate in green. So how am I supposed to rate anything after that if it's all relative? Like, fine that everything goes in green.
Your throat scratchy, Leanna. Wasn't there something with the?
There's no answers to anything. There's no further questions posed. There's resolution to one thing. Yes, it's a major thing, the recognition with Fitz, but it's like that's kind of all that book achieves.
But
as
you
far as
got the stuff with the
story goes.
Fool. I mean, I don't know.
Isn't
Emily
this
Reed
where
said,
where we first see the crossover with the Rainwilders?
yeah,
Where,
that's
like,
the
Fitz meets the Rainwilders for the first
yes,
time?
that's the other thing is I love that whole thread so much that I was just delighted to see them, like, to start to see it all coming together. That was very exciting to me.
Yeah, they go to Kelsingrad.
Right.
in the stone.
I will grudgingly concede that it can go higher.
And meeting Kenneth's son, I really liked that.
God, I didn't. He was awful.
I mean, I thought it was interesting. I don't mean that I'm a huge stan.
Well, we'll see how things fare once we get through a few more of these. So the next one is Dragon Haven, which is number 2.
This
I
is
think-
my favorite of the Rainwild Chronicles.
Okay, me too, but everybody else says this is the worst one.
But so much happens in Dragonhaven.
The scene where Jared has her miscarriage is
So
like one
amazing.
of the best scenes in the entire series, and I will
Yeah.
not hear anything. But Derry,
I have
we're
goosebumps
vastly
just thinking
outnumbered on
about it.
this.
Yeah.
No one else likes this book. And I
No.
get it, because it's so clearly that first book got chopped in two. And this is like, so like from a pacing perspective, I completely understand why people don't like this book, but I don't really care that nothing happens. I like the nothing that's happening.
But stuff does happen. You get the flood, you get the grift.
The flood is great. The flood is very, very good.
Eldon makes a kill, Raptor makes a kill. Lots of things happen.
I don't understand how you can argue that nothing happens in Fool's Quest, but there's tons of things that happen in Dragonhaven. I don't understand. There's some inconsistency.
They find Kelsingra at the end of Dragonhaven. That's huge.
So one thing happened.
The thing that unlocks all of the mysteries around the Rainwilds.
I would put it like, I mean, I think technically in my individual ranking, I put it below, like toward the bottom. Like it's the best filler book ever. But the more that I think about it, I think it's like bottom of teal, or
I mean, I would put it in yellow or green, but I've already conceded that if you let me do City of Dragons, I'm not going to fight. So I'm not even. I'll concede to whatever the consensus is.
Teal or red for me, definitely.
Red.
It sounds like it might live in teal.
I don't know, Jimmy. Where are you putting it?
I'd put it under the list. I'd put it beneath my StreamYard window. I can't stand these first two books. I'm sorry. The flood is great, though. I will say that the flood is super tense. I have an affinity for flooding in books. I don't know what it is. There's a flood.
Send Jimmy your flood Rex.
Yes, I love the flood Rex.
Blood survival stories.
Have you read The Year of the Flood?
I have not, in fact. Sounds a little one note. The first two of these books, for me, they're pretty butt cheeks. Like there wasn't much about them that I attached to. I would have DNF'd it, I think, if it wasn't so far into the series that I knew I wanted to finish.
Yeah, well, my complaint about the first both of them is that it's like so many POVs that are all in the same place, and there's not a lot of progress happening for like where they are, especially in the second one. The first one, okay, they're all like getting on board with this mission and going on this mission. But here they're there and they're stagnantly there, and none of the POVs are elsewhere. And like finally at the end, like we find Kelsingra, but like at least in City of Dragons, okay, well then we start getting like what's her name's husband's POV, so he's somewhere else, and like we've got like a more dynamic like view on things at least. But Dragonhaven is all just everyone in the same place with the same thing in the same time, and nothing is progressing or happening, and it's just so frustrating.
The more that I think about it, it's like it's like they're. If my dog starts barking, I'm so sorry. But no, they're isolated, and so they're just I don't know. It's like Lord of the Flies type situation or something like that, where they're stranded, and so you're getting how they're managing and how they're able to live without supplies, without
there's a survival element to it. I will say this, I am curious to see how I would feel if I focused more on the themes and not, when first time you read stuff, a lot of the times, it's not always the case, but a lot of the times you're trying to see what's happening, right? And you can miss themes and different layers of a story. So I do concede the fact that maybe if I hadn't been so excited to find out what happens in the final trilogy, that maybe I could have spent more time with it and enjoyed it. I think there's still things about this series that would have graded me a good bit, but I have to go with like what I felt when I read it, and
you're not alone. You're not alone. Like I get that most people don't like, but I love the Pigeon Keepers like throughout the entire series.
Oh, Pigeon Keepers the best.
Great.
I love the Pigeon Keepers.
Yeah.
I love just all the stuff with Jerd, and not because she's great, but just like I am such a theme reader that this was so thematically dense for me that it was like a feast of.
Oh yeah.
Things to think about.
And this is where, having read it so often, I'm not chasing the story. I'm not looking to see where it goes. I'm about, okay, what have we got in this story? What is giving me the story of these characters and how they're interacting. And I get so much joy from Dragonhaven because you learn so much about all of these characters and all of the battles they're facing. And I just love it. It's brilliant.
Yeah. But I hear the consensus, and Derry, you and I, we know.
We know.
We get it. But
We know.
sometimes life is about compromise.
This is
Okay, so then Fool's Errand, which is the first book of Tawny Man.
is my favorite of the whole series. This is
Really?
This is the hill I'm going to die on.
Oh,
Okay. So you're putting it in green then. Lana's like,
I'll plead the fifth.
But I know that's not everybody's favorite. This one really resonates with me. This is the one I find the most heartbreaking, the most emotional, because this is the only one we see and Fool be friends and just be friends and hang out.
And then the night eyes of it all, which it's coming, but there's no way to prepare yourself.
No.
For it.
Even after 23 reads, I still ugly cry every time.
Yeah, I love Tawny Man, and like I said, I have a soft spot for first book, so I would be okay with Fool's Errand in green.
Yeah, I'm green as well on this one. Actually, I love Fool's Errand.
Leanna, where would you put it?
No comment.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
Evie, how about you?
I don't know if this is where Lena was gonna go, but red.
Evie.
I know. I'm so sorry, Derry.
I mean, if we're doing things like with this relative scale or whatever, like I'm happy to put it in teal because I do like it better than pretty much all or most of Rainwell Chronicles, but I don't like it very much.
Same.
Are there specific reasons? Do you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, as if Mara doesn't know.
I mean, I know because I read it with you, but
other than the soul-crushing death of Night Eyes, I wasn't really invested in it. I felt like the focus was more on Dutiful, and I didn't really connect with Dutiful at all. Like, there's a lot of lore stuff, like with the wit, and was really cool. But I was just like, this is fine. So I'm reading a book.
See, I would probably put it in yellow. I really like it. I love. It was the first book where I was like, oh, am I really coming around on Fitz? It's not that I didn't like Fitz in the first series, but I wasn't as connected with him. But this was the book where I was like, okay, like grown-up Fitz who, has seen a lot of life and is in this new phase of life. I was more into that. So it was kind of like Fool's Assassin, where there's nothing, like not a lot happens, I guess, kind of, but like I was into nothing happening.
Yeah.
So I would put it in yellow, but Leanna, you were not as much of a fan of nothing happening, if I recall correctly.
Well, it was more that so when we were talking about would we read another series or even other authors that have continued their series, that's what this felt the most to me like a fan fiction of oh, where are these characters? Where have they been? Oh, look, I named my horse after this character from a different series. Oh, did you catch that? And it just felt like all this stuff to be oh, that thing, clap for the nostalgia, a reunion episode, yay. And that's what I was like, okay, reunion, whatever. That's fine.
Fool's Errand is when we learn that he's called Beloved, and this is where we get Shade being heartbroken that Fitz never came back to Buckkeep, and we get the Fool just hanging out with Fitz and Night Eyes and carving on all the furniture. And that first 200 pages in the cabin are literally my favorite 200 pages of reading in my life. I love this book so much.
I wish I felt that way.
Well, I did hear 3 votes for green, so I think that's probably where we got to put it.
2 votes for red, though.
And 1 vote for yellow. So I'm going to put it at the bottom.
I can live with that.
I can't.
It's okay, Evie, you and I know.
This is, this is like a real time politic in here. If nobody's happy, that means we did something right.
Hashtag unsubscribe. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Fool's Fate is the last book of the Tawny Man trilogy.
Yeah. And it's my number 2 of the whole series. So that's a green from me.
So if you had asked me how I would feel about this with just Fool's Fate, like without context of the later series, I would say red.
Yeah, me too.
But, because I thought it was genuinely perfect, but the way that she handled, kind of Fitz recounting everything with Molly and or just seemingly getting over Burrick so quickly, even though I know it was years. But I'm just like, Burrick deserves so much better, goddammit. All right.
Oh, look, I love Burrick. You know this. I would marry Burrick in a heartbeat. And yeah, that breaks my heart. But so much.
Yes.
Fool's Fate is just
And then, reading Fool's Assassin and getting more Molly, and like, I'm like, oh, this is why. Like, this is why it was happening. And obviously, we're getting it from Fitz's perspective, so like, I get it. But anyways, to actually give an answer, sorry, screaming, crying, throwing up. That would be my vote after Assassin's Apprentice.
I would agree, because I feel very similarly about the ending. The ending felt, very different from Fool's Errand, but it's a similar issue of like this. The Fool's Errand felt like the reunion episode, and Fool's Fate felt like the like wish fulfillment fan fiction at the end of like, oh, he gets to be with Molly anyway, and like happily ever after, roll it in the hay. I was just like, what? What is this?
I'm with Rex on this one, because that's one tiny part of the story for the same reason I argued about Fool's Quest, is that one little bit doesn't take away from the whole rest of the book for me. And the whole rest of Fool's Fate is just so fantastic.
It is fantastic. And I think, I can't speak for Jimmy and Leanna and Mara, but, BookTube Goddess and Derry were reading these as they were coming out. So knowing that there's a whole nother trilogy called Fitz and the Fool, the emotional impact of those scenes and those moments with Fool, where he's in this very dire situation and they're also separating, they didn't hit at all for me, because I'm like, we know that he survives because he's in another trilogy. So
not just that he survives, but that they will see each other again. Like this whole like being parted. You're like, yeah, for now.
Yeah.
No, that's fair, because as you say, Goddess and I didn't know there were going to be more books after this. This felt like the end. And I carry that sort of nostalgic feeling with me, comes every time. So I always remember that this was genuinely, oh my God, this could be both of them dead. Panic, heartache, ugly crying. And I just carry that with me every time into this. And so
I was actually surprised when I heard about Fitz and the Fool when the first book came out. I was like, oh, the series is continuing. Thought it was over.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think. Yeah.
Personally, I would place it in yellow, I think.
Okay.
I think it's below Fool's Errand. Because I really liked the climax with the Forged Ones and the Pale Woman and all that stuff. Yeah. I thought it was a satisfying climax. But I'd put it below, I think, Fool's Errand.
Jimmy, what say you?
I would have it in green. I love this book. I really, really love it. I love Tawny Man, and I am unashamedly a big fan of this one.
Yay!
So like green, yellow.
I'm cool with wherever it goes, but me personally, I would put it in green for sure.
Yes. Okay. So I've heard 2 greens, a yellow, and 3 teals, but I'm willing to change mine to yellow because I kind of feel like that seems like where we're sort of.
So instead of everything being in screaming, crying, and throwing up, nothing will be in screaming, crying.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know.
So let's face it, that is kind of how Hobb works, though. You either love it, or it's Hobb, so it's still really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick. Well, what about like here? This kind of feels where we're landing ish.
I mean, honestly, to be quite honest, you could be asking me to give my input on a different day, and I would probably change my mind. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's just me in this moment. So
it's fair. Okay, Ship of Magic. This is the first Liveship Traders book, which is probably my favorite of the series.
Yeah, I'd put that one in green personally because I loved the whole world building of Liveship Traders. But here we get to first meet Althea. Did we see Amber here?
Very briefly.
Yes.
Very briefly. So I guess I liked her better in the Madship. But this is a book that really perked me up to thinking that there's something really special in these Elderling books.
Mara, I thought your favorite was Madship.
Yeah, it is. My favorite book in the entire series is Madship, but this series is...
Oh, the series is your favorite.
Yeah, sorry. Liveship is my favorite series within Elderlings. But this one is probably my least favorite of the three, so I could probably go yellow or green or teal. I could really be happy with any of those top three.
I would say, yellow before, like at the top of yellow, so before Fool's Quest and all that.
Yeah, I would put it in yellow, in that it's a strong entry and it does introduce you to Bingtown and that whole new dynamic of characters. But of the three live ships, it's my least favorite of the three. So yeah, I would go yellow.
Yeah, I always feel like with live ships, it's one of the hardest ones for me to like talk about because I always think of it as a whole rather than individual installments a lot of the times. And a lot of stuff happens in that trilogy. For me, I think Ship of Magic, I'd be okay with it being in Screaming, Crying, Throwing Up, or All Hell Queen Hobb. Your fave could never. Either one of those would be suitable for me.
I love the monotone, deadpan way we're reading these category names.
Screaming, Crying, Throwing Up. Leono, did you weigh in where you would put it?
Well, as I'm thinking, relatively speaking, and my least favorite of the three is the third one. So I'd certainly like Ship of Magic and Madship better. And I know y'all are going to be putting the third one higher than I'd like. So I'm like, well, where are we going to put this one then?
Well, I mean...
I'm sorry, I can't be in the same virtual room as this person.
So, Leanna, is it safe to say that you do not like Robin Hobb endings?
Yeah, that seems to be pretty
I think Rainwild Chronicles was the first time that I didn't mind, and it might even be just because I wasn't that invested in it.
I was gonna say, I kind of am with you on that. The two best endings I think are Blood of Dragons, and Assassin's Fate. But I'm not a hater like Leanna, so.
Oh, I see.
That's right, Leanna. Just
sorry.
own it.
Let me butter you up because now we're to my favorite book in the
I was just feel like Mara out here being like, I don't really like Fitz that much, but like Leanna's the hater. Okay, whatever.
No, I do. It just I don't know. I feel like the way this series or like Realm of the Elderlings is pitched in general is like if you don't like Fitz, you won't like the series, and I don't think that that's true. It is like so much in his head, but like.
Mara's like, I'm here to tell you I can't stand Fitz, and I love the books anyway.
I'm here to tell you that Fitz fucking sucks, and no, I'm just kidding.
Fitz is a lot of hard work if you're not if you're not with it. It's frustrating, but the writing is still amazing.
Yeah, there's more to even Fitz books than just Fitz, I guess. Yeah. So I'm green on this one. This is my favorite book in the entire series, but I will open the floor to other perspectives.
Green.
Yeah, I'll co-sign green as well. I think
because
I think it is the best of the three.
Yeah, I'm willing to give up green on this.
Who's gonna break my heart? Evie, are you red?
Yeah, I'm red.
No, okay, there we go. I knew someone had to do.
Someone was gonna.
Which is ironic because I love Paragon so much. So and
this is his book.
I know. So this is why this is probably the book that I'm most excited to reread because like I have context for everything and yeah.
Goddess, thoughts?
Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Amber, and I like Paragon a lot, and I'm perfectly okay with this being green.
I mean,
So-
Amber and just like I remember so clearly, like I think I did a standalone, this is one of the only standalone review I've done, because I just remember realizing like, is Amber the fool? And then being like, if Amber's the fool, Hobb is doing shit with gender in this series that I did not even contemplate her going to. And then the revelation about Wizardwood to me also was just a game changer.
Yeah, me too.
Ugh.
So you guys probably have discussed this already. What gender is the fool?
Fool isn't human. I believe that fool is
know.
genderless, that it genuinely
Non-binary?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say non-binary now, but
just-
when the series first started, that wasn't
They're
even
genderless.
in the lexicon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put, since we had a red vote, I am gonna put this behind Fool's Assassin, but above Assassin's Fate. But yeah,
I would
gender is.
say I would say that fool is there's a fluidity to the fool, regardless of gender or just the way he acts. It's just or
Fool
they
just
act.
They
is.
act, yeah. Yeah, the Fool, yeah. I don't know. This is a great series to give to someone who has like very stuck in their ways thoughts about gender, I think, because I think that this is a really great illustration of like just how fluid it is. And well, actually, this is a great segue into our next one, which is the Golden Fool.
Green.
Middle book of Tawny Man.
That's the only
And
Tawny Man book I like.
the scene where Fitz is having that confrontation about the fool's identity as Amber is maybe my favorite scene in the series. Like, just the intensity of that conversation and him having this reckoning of like, what the fuck? This is like, what's going on? And
I always call that portion the argument, and I capitalize it, the argument. And it's so impactful for those reasons, because he's having to actually face his own bias in dealing with Amber over the fool. And he's not happy with himself, I think, for a lot of this, because he doesn't like seeing that in himself. And so there's so much in that, in the argument, that you can pick apart and have fun with. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it reinforces a lot of the identity themes that we have, and we actually see that with Fitz as well. But one thing in Golden Fool that gets overlooked, a lot of people comment on, and they feel like Fitz is being homophobic, which I think that you could definitely kind of maybe assign in that scene. But one of the other things that people don't talk about in that conversation is consent. You know, Fool had carved Fitz's face, and Fitz is upset because he feels embarrassed and kind of like caught off guard. And there's a lot to that, but I do think at least one of the underlying things there is consent. And
also just trust even without consent. Like that this is a relationship that you have with a person that is like important to you, and that feeling that you've been lied to, regardless of like whether this is to do with sexuality, gender, romance, anything like that, is a very large part of this person's life and identity that they have kept from you. So to feel a sense of betrayal over that, I think is justified.
Yeah, and it talks a lot about the assumptions you make with your best friends, that you just assume you know how they're going to feel about something, and you make decisions for them because you know them that well. And Fool has done that to a certain degree here by saying, I knew you wouldn't agree with that. I knew you wouldn't like that. I have decided this thing for us without even talking to you. And yeah, it's such a good book.
And because in general, that's a huge part of their dynamic throughout, like the hits from childhood to now, that the fool is always the one with the upper hand, the one that knows more, the one that is the one making plans and not telling Fitz why things need to be the way they are. So Fitz already feels a little bit like on the back foot all the time. And then, but when you reach a point where you're like, okay, I've accepted that, but I still feel like now there's kind of like an equality in our relationship. and then to
Mhm.
have this is like, okay, just kidding. We don't have equality in this relationship, like not even close.
Yeah.
I will say that of all the books, I feel like The Golden Fool is the one where it's most politically and character driven. There's so much political
Oh, yeah.
machinations
That's why I
going
like
on,
it.
and
Which
so
I
much
love.
character growth. Even though technically nothing happens, it's a book that I love because the characterizations and the machinations going on. It's just
Well, like after reading what's it before Fool's Errand felt like Adventure of the Week side quest reunion, and then
Yeah.
Golden Fool, I was like, oh, we're back. It's politics. We're in Buckkeep. We're having these revelations about characters. It's like, oh, we're back in the realm of the Elderlings. Yes.
And we get the introduction of the group of emissaries from Bingtown. You know, we actually get to see that they've taken steps in their little society to come together enough to trade with other nations.
But also all the court politics that Dutiful has to deal with, because like Dutiful was just like a kid on a little adventure story in the first one, whereas here we actually see kind of more the responsibilities of position and etc. That
and the court politics, and that his small decisions, who he plays games with, who he goes riding with, and how that has ramifications around him that he suddenly starts to see and goes, oh, I made a mistake.
and how Eliana just wipes the floor with him over and over again.
She really does. And
well, and the interesting, this is something we've seen already, but just like how interesting parenthood is in this series, and the fact that Dutiful is Fitz's son biologically, at least. Yeah, I don't know. All of that is so interesting. And then when we get to the final one where it's like a polycule that made Thumbelina, aka B, just like 3 fathers, 1 mother. Just how interesting all of that is. Yeah. So I heard a green, other votes for Golden Fool. I'm happy for it to be green, but
green.
I would do yellow.
Yellow.
Green.
I'm fine with yellow or green.
I feel like I'm saying green for everything, but hearing you guys talk, I also like thinking of the relationship between Fitz and the Fool as one of the most intense love stories that have been platonic. This asexual love story
goddess.
that had really got me. That adds extra layers when they start having these conversations that make me want to put it green, but I feel like I'm saying green for everything.
I'm okay with that.
Don't stop on the one I like.
This is the only book that Leanna likes.
So you're only going to get one.
Give her something.
Oh, we're putting Royal Assassin in green. I just making that clear now. That's not negotiable.
Okay. Well, since we're there, let's just go ahead and talk about that. So I would put it in yellow, but it has to be one of the best cliffhangers ever.
Best resurrection trope ever.
Yeah.
Oh
Except
my god!
The resurrection doesn't happen in that one. Only the dead.
This book blew my mind.
Yeah.
I would say bottom of yellow or top of teal.
Ooh, I wasn't that harsh.
Damn it.
I mean, it's another one that I'm excited
teal.
to reread. So, because I'm sure there is plenty that I missed.
I remember when I first read this just being I had so much enjoyment of like what a dum-dum Fitz is about Molly and like all things having to do with women. That alone was worth the price of admission on this book for me, of just like it just made me laugh of like, I don't understand why she's mad at you, mad at me. And it's like, oh my God, Fitz.
Dude.
I mean, he's a teenager. That's part of it. But also,
but it's also like peak Night Eyes and Fitz, becoming, we are pack.
I mean, the whole resurrection thing, like Burke saying, Fitz, come back to me, my boy, is heartbreaking. But also him just going berserk mode was so, like, I could not put the book down. I was just like, what is happening?
Thrilling, like really thrilling. very few books have gripped me like Royal Assassin did in that climax. Like
I think the last fifth of the book, I could not put it down.
Yeah, it did not let go of me. I think that's her best ending, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I love many of the other endings, but that one,
Yeah.
whew.
Well,
It's
that
either
one-
that one or Fool's Assassin, I think, have the best ending to a book of like, holy
man.
shit, I've got to keep reading.
Why do you have to say things while we're talking about my favorite that I have to disagree with and be upset about?
Well, I hadn't read A Song of Ice and Fire when I read Royal Assassin. So this was the first time it got to the end of a book and there was a death of a main character. I was beyond shocked. I was like, no, he's going to get out of it. Something will happen and, he'll be saved from this. And the minute I realized that everybody around him who loves him is saying, just die and we'll deal with it later, I was like, oh my God, is she whoa. I'd never encountered that before. It was just so surreal to me as a reader of fantasy to have that actually become a storyline. I don't even know how to deal with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Great book.
So good. So I think I'm hearing a consensus that it's green. Otherwise, Lana may just like leave the stream.
Yeah,
in
this is
a
probably
huff.
one of the few I'd put my foot down on and say green. Like this is
Yes.
Yeah,
this is
but now we got to figure out where to put it. I would argue it's in somewhere in the top 3.
Just all the way at the top. Just
I-
push everything else down.
I would put it behind Assassin's Fate.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm actually down to put behind Assassin's Fate just to
choosing
Oh, wow.
violence.
Okay.
Yeah,
They're just choosing that specific book just to upset me.
yes.
Listen,
100%.
it's not in red.
It's
We're gonna
working.
be happy with what you have.
We are putting a lot in green, but I mean, honestly, there are some really
We
high
need to
quality-
put
I don't
something
think
in
we're-
screaming and throwing up.
Well, I think we might be about to be there. So yeah, we've only got 3 left, and I don't think any of them are going to be too high. The Willful Princess and the Piebald Princess is the novella.
This
Okay,
is the
do
one I
like
haven't
screaming,
read.
crying, and
So
showing up.
it's up to
Oh,
you.
I've got that in the bottom quarter, so I'm okay with that being teal or red.
I think
Yeah.
screaming, crying.
Goddess, you definitely should read it if you're ever going to reread Tawny Man, because like Leanna and I got that warning in our live show. They were like, oh, before you read Tawny Man, you really need to read this. I'm really glad we did, because it has a lot of like the lore
Yeah, there's so
around
much
the
context.
piebald
Yeah,
Maybe I'll have to
situation and
check it
why.
out. Usually
thought
I
it
don't
was
like
excellent.
prequels. Usually I skip prequels when I
I think
see them.
it's its own little story that you could read and not read anything else in the realm of the Elderling.
Yeah.
The fact that it gets referenced as a story later in Realm of the Elderlings just kind of adds a bit of, I don't know, meat
Texture.
to it. And getting that story gives you the political background to why the wit is hated in the Six Duchies. So
Hmm.
And it's
getting that adds so much to the Tawny Man, just in understanding why that bias exists and why it is so vitriolic. So it's well worth reading, and it's teeny weeny,
yeah, and the way it's written, it's written as an in-world like
It's
text.
tiny.
So it's
Yeah,
With
it's
that
kind of like
said-
a fairy tale.
I would put it in red. Probably at the bottom, honestly.
Jamie, where would you put it?
I'd have this in green. I thought it was excellent. I literally thought this was so good. I mean, I'm fine. I'm obviously the odd one out on this one, but just for the record, I thought it was awesome.
I mean, I
It
do
is
really like it.
really
I
good.
mainly just want to put something in screaming and crying.
I
Like,
kind of
I'm
want to
fine
put
with
it
putting it
there.
higher.
Yeah, I kind of want to put it in Screaming Crying just because it's so slight compared to some of the others,
Yeah.
but it is excellent. And like, it's where I have pointed several people to of like, read this just to get a sense of her writing. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not wanting to commit to a full fantasy 16 book whatever, like read this to get a sense of it, because it is a really well done novella. And like
Yeah.
Sapphic,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's literally the best novella I've ever read. Like, I can't think of
Love
another
that.
one that has been top. So in the grand scheme of Realm of the Elderlings, maybe it won't get ranked that high. But I just think from an execution standpoint, it's like, my God.
yeah, it's hard to do especially a novella in a series for fantasy
Yeah.
can be tricky, and I think that this one is really, really successful.
Mhm.
Yeah, using Leanna's lexicon, it achieved its project exceptionally well.
Well, I think it also, in terms of it being an in-world, like it doesn't feel like a prequel. It's more akin to like the Night of the Seven Kingdoms or Fire and
Yeah.
Blood, where it's like
Oh.
it's just like
It
this world
exists.
existed. It had a history. Do you feel when you are reading a history textbook in our real world that, oh, this is a prequel for my life? Hate that. I already know how this ends. Like, you know, like I don't think that's how we
Yeah.
regard those things.
So hopefully that will entice people to pick it up if they skip that over. Let's go Ship of Destiny. This is the finale of Liveship, which I'm very torn about because there are
Screaming,
things in this yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I love parts of this so much, but the fact that Althea's like the fact that the book seems to be suggesting that Althea is getting a happy ending by living on the ship that has the consciousness of her rapist, I just struggle with that a lot. I don't know, but I could be persuaded because I love this whole series. So
my thing with Ship of Destiny is it's talking so much about healing and the damage that trauma does, and how having to accept all of your own flaws is essential to being able to heal, is such an important theme alongside memory and self-awareness and how to be a complete human being or personality or sentient individual. It is just so important. It's green or yellow for me. There's so much going on in that book.
My wife just finished reading Liveship last week, and me and her talked about this at length on a car ride. And
Nice.
I would say hearing her perspective really like enhanced my opinion of this quite a bit. So I'm
Very
going to go
healthy.
green or yellow, I think.
My vote is definitely green. I think it is the perfect ending. I mean, like you said, Jimmy, like Liveship is just, I feel like Liveship is just one big book split into 3 volumes because it's just so perfectly paced. But I love Ship of Destiny so much. So
I would have to say yellow for me, just because I think it's on par with, well, you have Mad Ship at green. Okay, green or yellow?
Mara, we're outvoted.
yeah, I mean, I'm happy in yellow. I'll say yellow. I don't know where we actually landed though. I heard a green. I had 2 greens.
So
My
probably,
first thought is yellow.
So probably like mid yellow.
Okay.
It all evens out.
Yeah. I hear you though, Leanna. It's like it's hard for that one bit to not overshadow the whole book, but there is so much good stuff in here. I do wish we'd gotten a more like I wish we'd circled back on Kyle Haven for him to like really get a more horrible ending. But
I like the offhand loss of him. I enjoyed that. I was like, yes, that's how unimportant you are in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, he's
Which
probably my favorite
of
baddie.
what's her name's husband getting eaten by a dragon.
Oh, that
I still call you
I call you meat.
Oh, I love it.
That is a
This
great.
Hest is just so awful.
Yeah,
That is an awesome scene.
I
Yeah,
hate Hest more than I hate Kyle.
that's impressive.
So
He's I would say, let's see, I put Kyle as my most hateable just because it's his own son.
I was gonna say what
Yeah.
Kyle does to his son. I can't think of anything
can't
Hest has
forgive
done
it.
that's worse than that.
But Hest is definitely up
He's-
there.
He's a knowingly cruel person. And
Yeah, he's just a truly horrible person through and through.
Yeah.
So I will say before we get to the last book, to be devil's advocate, and actually this is truly my own opinion about Kyle's death. Like I really love how Robin Hobb, sent him off, I suppose. Not for how she sent him off, but more for Malta, that she was able to like.
She was able to keep her own fairy tale alive about
Yeah,
her father.
her not even delusion, but like her illusions about her own father, like
Yeah.
they weren't shattered, because that would be even more traumatizing, I think. So.
Well, and I will say, she already was getting a glow up in Mad Ship, but Ship of Destiny is pretty great for Malta, and like truly just like, whoa, you really made me like a character by the end of this series that
which you would not have believed.
Yeah. Okay, last and maybe least, I don't know where we'll put it. Dragon Keeper. This is the first book in the Rain Wild Chronicles.
See, this is my favorite of the Rain Wild books.
I think the Rain Wilds like starts pretty strong and ends pretty strong. It's the middle that's just kind of like waffling around, and the pacing is awful. So I think I like Dragon Keeper certainly better than the middle two books.
Yeah, I'd put it at the bottom of Screaming, Crying, Thrown Up.
Jimmy, I know would put it off the page.
Yes, this is my least favorite one out of all. I are not like.
So that's a red.
Yeah, that's a red.
Or a black, I guess, into the void. So we've got a red. I won't vote because I would put all of the Rain Wild Chronicles higher.
We need some in Screaming and Crying.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it.
Okay, just visually, maybe we'll put it there just because visually that's more.
The fact that that's higher than Assassin's Quest,
that hurts my soul. But
again, if no one's happy, that means we did our job right here. Which,
that's right.
Yeah,
and they are all better than anything else anyone could ever write. So
yeah. So here's where we kind of landed.
We're putting a lot of endings in.
Yeah, because she nails an ending,
which is so funny because I disagree with that.
I know a lot of people who feel like people who I feel like people who do not like Hobb. That is generally their complaint if they stick with it, is that they don't end up liking the ending. So I don't think it's a hot take.
Apparently, it's a hot take to like Hobb and think her endings suck.
We got two endings in the bottom, and right now we're ranking the ending at the very, very top. Or no, this is the first book. Sorry, here's an ending.
Yeah.
Lest I forget.
Here's an ending.
So we got a lot of beginnings happening in green.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm shocked Golden Fool's so high because I swear I've never seen anyone talk positively about Golden Fool except
Are you
for me.
serious?
Yeah,
I had that as a top book last year.
I get a lot of people
for my favorite.
I get a lot of people that come through my Discord because that's been one of the biggest series that I've covered on my channel. And I see a lot of people come through, and I always feel like Golden Fool is like them just being like, eh. And I'm like, I love it. I
love that book.
I think it's just an easy one if you wanted to seem balanced, that you can kind of just it was okay. Somebody's got to take the fall, and I guess the middle book, because I see this in Mad Ship a lot too. I see the same thing about Mad Ship.
Who are these people?
Yeah. Well, they're
a number of people.
They're bad people.
Yeah.
It's
the wrong people. No. I tend to think that Robin Hobb is that weird author where her middles are often her best. Like for me, at least, I tend to really like the middle of her series. So that's so interesting. But again, that just shows that there's something for everyone. That
is consistent with you too, because you like the second book in Rainwall Chronicles the most in that one as well, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just having an aha moment and realizing that Robin Hobb's middle books pretty much all are character development focused.
Which makes sense because I'm a character-driven reader.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Characters and themes tend to be my...
Not that there's not character development in the other books, obviously, but
What, Robin Hobb do character development? Are you sure?
Right?
It took me so long to rank these at all that it's ridiculous. Because they're all this series that I adore. And it has high points and low points, and Hobb writes them so well that quite often the highest points are in next to the lowest points. And it all comes down to which of those moments resonate with you the most. And
So basically, we made Derry choose her favorite child.
But I already had a favorite child because Fool's Errand has been my favorite for a lot of years, and nothing else comes close for me.
Okay, second favorite child.
Yeah, that was hard. That was painful. But
I'm so on my channel I tend to do a lot of forced rankings, and it's always like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, I'm the one who's making myself do this, but I think it's a fun way to inflict.
And
well, anyone who's reading Hobb is probably a masochist, so why should that end with the...
I rarely do tier lists or anything, but when I did my year end, I ranked all the books I read last year, and like I started the live stream, and I hadn't really thought about much, and then I started doing it, I was like, oh God, this is so hard. That is stressful.
Well, and it's
even
like
within a series, you can never compare them one to one because they're all doing something slightly different.
Well, this is good because I have other people to bounce off of, and no one realized that I kept putting every book in green except for Rainbow Chronicles, and I just put all of them in red. Like I think I picked like
so really you just
Jimmy.
Like if you go back and watch, I think almost every book I've put in green.
Well, I mean, I can't really argue with any of the books I would be happy to see in green. Like the lowest rating I gave any book was Assassin's Quest my first time around. But I gave that the equivalent for my rating scale of a B+. So I mean, like, to me, the least strong book in this is still a B+.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to do that reread. So I'm sure it's gonna.
Well, Evie started, so you already have the knowledge of already how impactful having full knowledge is when you go back and you read.
Yeah.
Because you're just aware of what else has been and will go on, and it's just there.
Yeah, I admit I tried to immediately start Assassin's Apprentice after like a couple days after finishing Assassin's Fate, and I just reading the first page, I just started bawling, and I was just like, I can't do it. It's too soon. It's like a grieving period, like finishing this series, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm okay now that I can. I
binged that last trilogy in 2 weeks, and that was definitely like a book hangover.
The Hobb hangover is real.
Yeah,
it's absolutely a thing.
Yeah.
You guys are making me want to reread this now.
Good.
Yeah, I won't lie. Like, part of me just kind of wants to like peel a couple of them off and just read like in isolation. Like I don't have to reread the whole thing, but like,
yeah.
I will say I've had a lot of trouble since because I read Hobb last year or the year before.
I think you ended it in 2021.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was like May. But I have not really been attached to a cast since then. And that's not to say I haven't enjoyed characters or like enjoyed books. There's, Rome of the Elderlings isn't even my favorite, but that emotional attachment, I have not found that in another series since, unless it's something I read prior, like something I said prior, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I used to say I was a character-driven reader, but I don't think I connect to characters much anymore.
Hobb ruined you for all other characters.
And I don't want to say that because that's the worst. Like, it's such a
true.
For me, it's just like a different level of attachment, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't teared up, I don't think, since no, I did read Millet. That had a little bit, but a lot less of an emotional reader than I used to be, I feel. Maybe a symptom of reading a lot. Or
puts that benchmark really high.
Yeah, for an emotional attachment
come
for me.
those levels.
Yeah, Rome of the Elderlings is very high on that scale for me.
I think for me, just there's a catharsis in reading this series the first time around, and like if rereading Assassin's Apprentice is any indication, in rereading it as well. Derry, you can tell me if rereading it 20 years.
Yeah, once you hit the 20th reread mark, it really
it doesn't. And this is why the first reread is like reading an entirely new series by an author you already know you love, and getting a whole new story, because there's just so much more to it when you do that reread. But by the time you've read it as many times as I have, you're still finding little things, and you're still finding richness in themes that you just hadn't seen yet. And the emotional beats still hit me that hard every time, knowing it's coming hasn't dulled any of that emotional impact.
I find
Which-
with any like books or movies where there's something that made me
Exceptional.
emotional, it's worse the second time because I know it's coming now, and
I
I'm
usually start
preemptively tearing up
crying.
because I'm anticipating it.
Yeah, I usually start crying about Night Eyes around chapter sort of 18, and it happens in chapter 26. But I'm crying that far ahead every time he's on page. So I'm like, it's nearly time. It's ugly. It's not a good look.
Well, when they make the adaptation, I feel like Derry is going to be their consultant, like their book consultant on making
That
sure
meme,
that
I'm
they're
gonna hit smashing. That's not
Yeah,
how it happened in the book. But yeah, it's
yeah.
it's
Well,
Goddess, if you want to do the reread, I will hold off on rereading Rural Assassin if you want to.
and I can do virtual rereads with anyone at any time because I
Okay, we'll see.
Oh my God, that's a
No
lot of-
pressure.
Well, I appreciate you guys duking it out and making compromises, and I feel like we landed in a solid place.
See, diplomacy is possible.
Yeah.
and
Oddly
we
enough,
have
on the
come to
internet,
conclusion. They're all better than anything anyone else could write. So
Yeah.
Except for Joe Abercrombie. It's fine.
Well, we'll see.
On a
I'm
prose level,
hour for
Joe
another
Abercrombie
day,
is a better writer.
on a what level?
On a prose level, I think.
Oh,
Wait, what was the comment?
It was pro Joe
I think
Abercrombie.
Yeah, it's a
wanna
better writer
hear
than
it.
Robin Hobb on a prose level. I think Robin Hobb's a better writer overall.
Shots
At
fired.
least I think I enjoy her works, are
I
more
knew I liked
emotionally
you.
attached. But, I appreciate Joe Abercrombie's writing.
Wordcraft.
And Leanna has successfully made
I
this
was
a Joe
gonna say-
Abercrombie stream. My God.
it did take an hour and a half.
That
That's
So-
maybe a record.
we did rank Assassin's Fate as in green, but that alone from Goddess, I think, just redeemed Leanna's night here on the stream.
She's thrilled.
I can sleep now.
Now someone just talk about the wolf. Wolf.
Oh, did you like the wolf?
I like the wolf.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining and geeking out about Hobb. It's a special
so much
club
for
of people who've made through. So
Yeah.
I feel
Bond
like
for
they should
life.
make T-shirts that are like, "I did it." Like,
Yeah.
I got to the end of the realm of the.
I made it to the end.
I
of
read
Realm
all
of
these
Death.
books and all I got was this stone.
I'm
wolf.
broken. I finished Hobb.
That's exactly right, Jimmy. Stone Wolf is like you get like a little trophy.
Well, I feel like how it's like a mountain climbing. Like I hiked the Grand Canyon, you get a shirt. Well, if you
Yeah.
did it like I hiked the realm of the Elderlings, but like it was like a mountain that's like wolf shaped as an homage to the rock that is like, because then it wouldn't be
Yeah.
spoilery per se.
It could also be a stoned wolf and just be Night Eyes like smoking a blunt.
Tripping balls.
That'd be dope.
Definitely possible.
Level,
I would-
level.
Smoking on that Night Eyes.
There's probably one on Etsy.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Bring it all the way
Yeah.
back around. Just go look on Etsy. I'm sure it's there.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And who knows, maybe we'll do another Hobb Geek Out sometime in the future. So
Would love it.
Awesome.
thanks everyone. Oh, and
Thank
actually,
you.
I will make sure I link everybody's information below. So please go check them out. Yes, yes,
That's
yes.
Awesome.
Because everyone's awesome. So.
Jimmy.
Well, he's the only one here with the guns.
Have a good night, everyone.
Night.
Good
Bye.
night.